Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith, and today I am talking about Summer Never Ends 2 God's Mistake by Judith Sonnet. And this is a sequel, obviously, to Summer Never Ends. I shouldn't say obviously, nowadays, considering occasionally there are movies and books that appear to be sequels, but they aren't. But in this case, this is a sequel to Summer Never Ends, and there's going to be a third book. I'm looking forward to that. Um, so this is in 2009, and a bunch of religious kids, uh, just under teens, into teens, 16, 17 might be the oldest. I know there's a 16-year-old. But they're going on a canoeing trip. And so there's a couple adult advisors with them. And they're going to a river that is near the terrible, horrific events of the first book, which took place back in the 80s. And they're gonna be terrorized. This is a slasher novel. And so people are going to start dying. For the too long didn't watch folks, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. That shouldn't be a surprise because I'm a huge fan of Judith Sonnet, and this book just solidifies that even more. So in the book, right off the bat, we have a list of there are 20 characters in Summer Never Ends 2 God's Mistake. We have a list of all those characters with their ages. Let's see, 32. Jerry Watson is one of the adults, obviously, who's with this group of kids. And I believe they all, for the most part, belong to the same church. Sue Ellen Banks is 22. And then, yes, we have an 11-year-old. And then there are a few other adults that are just out camping. The local sheriff, he's 45. And I know the one kid was, 16. And then, right after that list of characters, there's a little warning that I considered reading, but I don't want to spoil it. And then it starts, it all happened in the year 2009. So, Judith Sonnet is a master at characterization. And we start the book meeting our cast of characters, our main cast of characters, the church group. And we get to know Jerry quite a bit, and we get to know a little bit about Sue Ellen, and Jorge is the 16-year-old. Let me just double check that that's who I'm talking about. Yes. He's 16. He's driving, so they have a van, like the church van. Jorge's driving his truck, and I believe Sue Ellen has a vehicle as well. And they're driving all of these kids for this annual trip that they take, and this time they're going canoeing on this river. And so we're meeting them, and we're getting to know most of them in the early chapters. And one of the things Judith tends to do is take the early part of the book to introduce us to the characters and let us get to know the characters. And even the characters we don't get to know as well as our major characters, we still get to know them. She still gives them characterization. Even if it's just a little bit, it's enough to let us know who they are. And this is really her strength. She can write incredible gory scenes, and she has great skills at pastiche. I've talked about that many times. She's written a number of pastiche novels in different genres, and they, in my opinion, are absolutely fantastic. She matches the tone and the style of whatever it is she's trying to copy, for lack of a better term. She does it very, very well. But again, it's her characters that tend to drive the stories, and it's where she really, really shines as an author. And in this book, as I said, we get to know the characters early on, and we learn about the events of the first book. So if you've never read it, you should. But if you've never read it, they talk about it because one of the kids there mentions the massacre at this camp, and so we learn about a little bit about what happened there, and then we meet some campers. There's 4 young adults that are out camping and having a good time. We meet them. We meet the sheriff, and then eventually the killing is going to start. And it's not extreme. Judith has said she's done with writing extreme horror. She's exploring other genres and subgenres. And so there's some graphic violence, but it's not the extreme violence that some might only associate Judith Sonnet with. But yes, the violence comes. We're in slasher territory. We're in the woods. We're canoeing down a river, and we have someone picking people off. And there are twists and turns to the plot. Of course, I'm not going to give anything away, but Judith, I want to say, hits a lot of the slasher tropes, but I'm not sure that's actually true. There's nobody with a dire warning, surprisingly, and that's that's such a trope that it was parodied in Cabin in the Woods, the movie Cabin in the Woods, but we see it so often, usually at a gas station or a general store where somebody stops, and they do make a stop. The church group does make a stop, a couple of stops, but there's no old codger that warns them of the dangers out there in the forest. But we do get some of the sort of slasher tropes. There was one scene in particular that had me thinking about slasher movies, especially the classics, your Halloween, your Friday the 13th, of course, I guess Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street. But for me, that's always sort of been an outlier because of the whole mystical dream world aspect of it. I mean, it's still a classic slasher. And then, there's the sort of standalones that didn't really become franchises, like Prom Night, although there are sequels, but really not attached to the first one. I think there's a character that runs through like 4 Prom Night sequels, and then the remake, Happy Birthday to Me, My Bloody Valentine, Terror Train, all these slashers. And there's a scene in here, and I'm trying to remember any of the classic slashers that had a scene similar to this. And I don't want to say what it is to avoid spoilers. So all of you, buy this book and read it, and then we can talk about it. So even though Judith hits the tropes, some of the tropes of the slasher movie, she goes beyond those tropes, I think. I'm not a slasher expert. I'm not Stephen Graham Jones. But it all just comes together. It's a great story. There were surprises, things that I absolutely did not expect. And, I cared about these characters. And I'm very excited to see what the third novel in the series is. But, yeah, it's tough to talk about because this is the kind of book almost anything could be a spoiler. And I absolutely don't want to give anything away. So, to sum it all up, the usual fantastic character writing that Judith Sonnet always delivers, and some nice gory kills without going extreme. So for those people who don't mind some blood and violence but don't want that excessive stuff, this is right up your alley. If you're a fan of slasher movies, this is going to be right up your alley. And she writes some very surprising twists and turns. I didn't see these things coming. So, Summer Never Ends 2, God's Mistake, 4 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend this book. Excuse me. So there you have it. Question for this video, which I'm sure I've asked before, but let's talk about it again. What's your favorite slasher? Well, are you a fan of slashers? There's so many subgenres of horror that people have their favorites and they have things that they don't like. And I know people that are horror fans but aren't a fan of slashers. I happen to be a big fan of slashers. I like to think that I run the gamut of all of the subgenres of horror. I have favorites, obviously. Regular viewers know it's Killer Animals. But I'm a huge fan of slashers, which is mainly a cinematic thing. My favorite is Friday the 13th. I have a box set with every single Friday the 13th movie, including the remake and the documentary about the movies. I've come around on Halloween. I've seen all of the Halloween movies now except for 2. I haven't seen Halloween Resurrection. Maybe that's the one where they're doing the reality show in the Myers house. I haven't seen that one, and I haven't seen Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. But I've seen all the rest, and I was always a big fan of the first one, the third one, and then, after that, things kind of went downhill. I enjoy Rob Zombie's Halloween for what it is, and I actually like, despite their flaws, I like the new Halloween trilogy. Big fan of Chucky. Nightmare on Elm Street, not my favorite. I love the original movie, and I like Dream Warriors, and I like Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And 2 has grown on me, but they started just getting sillier and sillier. Freddy Krueger became far less terrifying when he just started with the one-liners too much. And things just got out of hand. I've never seen the remake. And then, there's classics. Like I said, those sort of standalone classics. I remember seeing Prom Night in the theater. And, I suppose they don't all hold up to the big ones, or they would have become their own franchises. But, I do enjoy a good slasher. I suppose, is Terrifier considered slasher? That's a modern classic. Hatchet. I enjoy the Hatchet movies, although I never saw the last one. The one that's just called Victor Crowley, I believe. But what about you? Let me know your thoughts on slasher films or slasher books. There are some out there. Let me know what you think of them in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, I'll have links for my Instagram and Blue Sky in the description below. That's all I've got. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.